This is Khanna and Robert Reich. They had an interview about what happens now. The fact that Trump is running again as president, and the Republican Party does have control over the House. So. What's with the 1992? I guess when I first saw this, I definitely did not play it from the beginning. What's with the 1992 music? Like, it sounds like it's from the 90s. I'm sorry.
I'm so pleased to have once again my good friend, Congressman Khanna, who represents Silicon Valley, co-chairman of the Progressive Caucus in Congress. Let's just start with how you feel after the midterm elections and when the smoke is beginning to clear.
Well, great to be back on. I'm feeling very, very positive. I mean, we vastly overperformed expectations, certainly overperformed even my expectations. We'll keep the Senate even before we get to the runoff with Warnock. In the House, we have an outside shot. I mean, the conventional wisdom among us is probably we end up down a few seats. But the question is Kevin McCarthy going to be Speaker or not?
Why do you think that Kevin McCarthy may not be the next Speaker, assuming, again, that Republicans take control of the House?
Listen to this.
Well, he is not well liked by the Trump base. He has tried his hardest to grovel towards Trump, which is the absolute irony, because he basically compromised his own beliefs and may not get the brass ring at the end of all of this.
Boy, did he.
So basically what Khanna is telling you is that some of the MAGA Republicans that are in the House may not vote for Kevin McCarthy unless, I told you guys, they had a list of things, of demands that they wanted Kevin McCarthy to do. They may not do that, and that could cost him the speakership. Now, this is exactly what we were asking the squad to do in reference to Nancy Pelosi. We were asking them to do the exact same thing. So it looked kind of silly, because it's like, Khanna, weren't you on that poster for Force the Vote? Khanna was on that poster. So what Khanna letting you know is that those MAGA Republicans, they have the courage to do something that the progressive Democrats did not have the courage to do. They didn't make any demands. They didn't make any demands, Nancy Pelosi. Just let me go ahead and just give you my vote.
Ever grovel? I mean, how many days was it between the time he actually criticized Trump for inciting violence on January 6th, and then when he goes and grovels and basically makes a display of his own lack of integrity? Was it 3 minutes?
That was a few days. And look, McCarthy is an institutionalist. He was an institutionalist. He was not one of these people who came in saying, let's burn the whole place down. He was someone who, like most people, was genuinely offended and angry that we basically had an insurrection of people roaming the Capitol trying to kill members of Congress. And so he was his true self the day after, saying, this is outrageous, let's condemn this. And then he realized that he needed Donald Trump, less for the election and more for his own survival within his own caucus, and he quickly changed. And look, as everyone who is with Trump will realize, Trump is going to throw him under the bus.
Speaking of throwing under the bus, what's your political prognostication, Ro, in terms of Donald Trump? I mean, there are a lot of people right now saying the emperor has no clothes, and this is a great time for Republicans to get off the bus.
Well, if they had any political sort of sanity left, they would see that election denialism is not a winning political strategy.
What is this? What is this white thing here? This is the second time I've seen this. Is this a bowl or what is that? Sorry, that just, it bothers me. I'm just still trying to figure out what that is.
And running extreme candidates or having Donald Trump pick your candidates is a recipe for losing. But I have predicted Donald Trump's demise too often and been wrong too often. I thought he wouldn't last after January 6th, and I've seen him command this loyalty of his base.
I'm going to talk more about this on Friday because I just saw this earlier today. Did you guys know that Donald Trump now he's polling really well now? Since his announcement, he's polling really well. He's doing better than I thought he would do, to be honest with you. And what I was particularly looking at was the comparison between him and Ron DeSantis. A couple of months ago, Ron DeSantis was beating him in that poll. Now, Trump is beating Ron DeSantis. I'll go into more detail. I got charts and all that stuff. I'll go into more detail about it on Friday. So here's what we don't want to let happen. Don't get comfortable and just assume that because Trump is not the same as he was when he ran last time, that his base has completely left him. That's actually not true. Some people have moved away from it, but what you also have to understand, there are some people that they just vote for party regardless. So if Ron DeSantis don't run and Trump runs, even if they don't like Trump, they'll still probably vote for him because they voting for their party. So I hope that people who are Democrats are not getting too comfortable here and just assuming that the Trump base has moved away. That based on what I've seen, and for those of you that live in areas where he still has a lot of support, I got to tell you, that is not completely true. Some have left, but he still has a strong base.
And I have yet to see enough people come out and say, absolutely not, Trump should not be the nominee.
Rupert Murdoch seems to be deciding against Trump. I mean, I was really surprised. This is not a sudden conversion. Murdoch has been distancing himself from Trump, but if you look at his outlets and the editorializing we've seen over the last couple of days, Murdoch is, he sees where the wind is blowing. Should we take that seriously? Should we take that as a major indication? Like you, I've been predicting Trump's demise more than anybody, but I would like to think that maybe we are seeing the end of the reign.
At least we've settled this question that Donald Trump is not an electoral asset. I mean, I think people are realizing, at least in the elites of the party, that this idea that he gets greater turnout and is some asset to win is no longer the case. And now
but there's a difference between him supporting other candidates and him running himself. And this is the part I think some people might sleep on. Don't think that just because most of the Trump endorsed candidates lost, that means that his base is gone. There's a difference between just because someone likes Trump doesn't necessarily mean they like the candidate that he endorsed. I think this is a mistake. If Democrats are doing this, I think this is a big mistake.
Question is, do they just have to run one more cycle with him involved? Basically, I think giving Joe Biden a re-election if he were the nominee, or is there a way that they can stop him?
Should we be hoping, that is, we Democrats be hoping that he runs?
No, for two reasons. One, he's just a cancer on our body politics. And to the extent that you care about America, to the extent you care about this country healing, having some constructive politics, the worst thing would be for Donald Trump to run. And I have confidence in the president. I mean, he has been underestimated consistently. He had one of the best midterm showings of recent times. I believe he would defeat whoever the Republican nominee is. I think we could easily beat DeSantis. I mean, DeSantis has attacked the First Amendment with companies.
That's not what the polling shows. See how they're already getting ahead of themselves? Just like they didn't think Trump would win the first time when he was running against Hillary Clinton. They're already getting ahead of themselves. I looked at the polls today, and the polls don't look good for Joe Biden. I'm just telling you that right now.
Like Disney, he's shown utter cruelty on immigration. He basically allowed for the economy of Florida to survive while 1 million people with COVID died. And I just think Biden will come off as far more presidential and decent. And I don't think DeSantis is as strong as people think.
No, Roe ain't looking. No. Roe has not looked at any polls. Like, I'm serious. I'm telling you guys, like, because I was like, let me prep for start picking stories for Friday's show. Because I looked at the polls and Khanna's talking a little bit too confident here, just saying that like, oh no, like Biden's more presidential, so people will. Trump wasn't presidential. That didn't stop people from voting for him in 2016. And I think, again, like, if he sleeps on this, if people like Ro Khanna sleep on this, you might get another surprising. First and foremost, Ron DeSantis is incredibly popular. I don't think some people think it's just Florida. It's not just Florida who like him. So incredibly popular. He's doing very well in the polls. And I'm telling you guys, as I said it before, Ron DeSantis could beat Joe Biden. And someone put the comment up there earlier. I think you just, Eric, I think you had just put the comment up there where Jacqueline said about the number of people that have moved over to Trump, like even Black people that have moved over towards Donald Trump after everything that's happened this year economically. This is what I'm trying to tell you. Yes, thanks, Jacqueline. There are a lot of people that still love Trump, and the amount of Black folk that are turning to Trump would surprise you. I'm telling you. This is something they sleep on this. And I'm like, I don't think you guys understand. Underestimate Ron DeSantis and Donald Trump if you want to. And people are going to be looking sad again, just like they were in 2016.
Rope, just between us. I mean, we're just having a conversation. Let's over coffee here. Do you honestly think that Joe Biden should run again?
Yes, for two reasons. I honestly do. And, I was a Bernie Sanders supporter, and I was a co-chair.
Basically, he was a fraud. I really don't get the people who went from supporting Bernie Sanders to, oh yeah, Joe Biden, let me support. He's doing such a great job. Like, on policy, they're not the same. They're not asking for the same things. So I don't understand that. I really don't. Economically, I don't get it. So he moved along where the wind blew. That's what Ro Khanna did.
Of his campaign, and I still would love for Bernie's agenda. But the reason is, one, the incumbent presidency has a huge advantage, just historically. And to throw out the advantage of being the incumbent president, I think is giving up a lot. And so why would we want to do that as a party? The second,
because he's horrible. Because he can barely finish a sentence sometimes, Ro Khanna. Because economically, like, he's caused a lot of problems. His policies, this reminds me of Barack Obama all over again, where Barack Obama made economic decisions that really hurt people in the United States, particularly Black homeowners. Like, he made bad decisions when it came to the economy. And you have Joe Biden doing the same thing. So it's like, he's like, well, why wouldn't you want him to? Because everything I just told you, the inflation, no codifying Roe v. Wade, the student loan debt blocked. You ended the child tax credit early. Joe Biden don't even know where he is half the time. No, he should not run. And I've said this before. It should be someone who is further left than Joe Biden, someone who is more progressive. Oh boy.
I think is Joe Biden has had a lot of success. I mean, we had the Inflation Reduction Act, the biggest climate bill. We had the CHIPS Act. We had the infrastructure bill. And he had a more successful midterm than either President Obama or President Clinton, who were probably greater political talents in terms of just oratory and charisma. But Biden.
But those things that he mentioned don't deliver economically for the people, though. You see what I mean? Like, who's really winning there? Yes, our infrastructure, we have issues with the infrastructure in the United States. That don't put money in people's pocket, though. Look, you guys voted against increasing the $15 minimum wage. 7 Democrats voted against that. And people think the American people don't see this shit. They think the American people don't see that the things that they are passing don't really benefit us. And if they do, they benefit a select few because it's means tested, or they end it early like they did the child tax credit. They couldn't even give you a $2,000 check that they promised because they're cheap.
Has delivered. And so I don't see a case really, unless he himself and his family said they don't want to do it, for us not to support him. And the other point is, I don't see any point of sort of the speculation of should he or shouldn't he run, because the reality is if he chooses to run, no one credible in the Democratic Party is going to challenge him. And so we might.
They're not going to challenge him because they're not going to keep their seat if they do. Because I would push back on that and ask that question. If I was Robert Reich, I would push back on Ro Khanna and ask, why wouldn't they do that?
Will make him as strong as possible.
Well, I understand that, but I'm 76 years old. He's what? 82. I mean, there is an issue of age. You get a little bit slower. I mean, my mind is better than it's ever been, obviously, but there is a slowing down. And young people who really distinguish themselves in this midterm, I mean, midterm election, both this time and the last midterm election, young people came out in extraordinary large numbers. I mean, is Joe Biden the kind of person, given his, I don't want to be an ageist here, but is Joe Biden the kind of person who's going to attract a new generation of young progressives and Democrats?
Well, look, I think he's going to need an army of 20 people like me. I suggest my name immodestly, but others on all spectrums of the party to be out there driving his climate message, driving his economic message. And I think he's got to be more intentional this time about saying not that he's a bridge to a new generation, but that he's really going to bring in the new generation of voices in how he governs, both in the next 2 years and hopefully if he's reelected, and that he's going to include many more new voices, new perspectives in the governance of the country. That
not after that blockage of the student loan debt cancellation. I'm telling you, that's why some people came out, and some people came out because of Roe v. Wade, right? The codified issue. But you took those things away from the people. Like it's terrible.
That to me seems like the best bet. But I just think that the risk of having an open primary, and I think it would be an open primary, and you'd have 15 candidates run, and it's unclear who would emerge. That I'm not sure that we want to do that while Trump still lurks out there, while DeSantis lurks out there. I do.
See, this is always going to be the excuse. You see, Ro Khanna proved my point that they're always going to use that excuse for the reason why it is not time for someone progressive to be in that spot. This is why the progressive policies are never going to get passed, because every time you may have someone who's progressive that really wants to take on that mantle, like a Bernie Sanders, and run for president, if you have the Ro Khannas of the world telling you, well, we shouldn't take that chance right now because you got Trump running for president. Oh, and there's also Ron DeSantis who could possibly run. Well, this is going to continue forever. They're always going to be able to use that argument. They can say that 10 years from now, we may get a Trump-like figure. We can't take that chance because we'll get someone like Trump. You see the problem? So if they keep making that argument, then you're never going to have a progressive or leftist, whatever you want to call it, president. And if you don't have that, how are you going to get these progressive policy passed? Because look, even the ones that were passing in the House didn't pass in the Senate. And the ones that passed in the House weren't really all that progressive. So this is a problem. This is something I want people to pay close attention to. Notice the framing. This is where the fear mongering comes in. We can't take that risk right now to bring in someone progressive or someone younger. We can't take that risk because of Trump, because of DeSantis, and 15 years from now, it'll be because of somebody else.
I think getting behind Biden is the best bet at this point with a threat to our democracy.
Ro, let me ask you about the next couple of months. Again, assuming Republicans took over the House, is there anything that the Democrats can and should try to do in the lame duck? I mean, for example, a national right to abortion. I mean, that would be difficult to take away, or an expanded permanent child tax credit. I mean, things that actually, if they were there, the Republicans, once they came in January, would have a very, very hard time reversing.
I agree with you. I think we should be pushing on the child tax credit in the lame duck. I mean, that's basically putting $600 back in the families of working families. If you want to tackle inflation, that's one of the best things we can do. We should.
$600. He want to be cheap when it comes to the American people, but they got all the money in the world for Ukraine. If you can give billions of dollars to Ukraine, you can give billions of dollars to the American people. What's $600 going to do?
Try to codify Roe versus we've done. If the Republicans are in power, is there really anything at this point that the Republicans would agree to? And it's unclear to me that they would. So that the best opportunity is the lame duck, and we should try to get as much of our agenda done as possible.
Well, finally,
they don't have that much time left.
You're looking at the next 2 years.
They don't have that much time left to get things done. January is going to be around the corner, believe it or not. I don't even want to start talking about Christmas yet, because I know some people, it makes some people nervous, and people start hearing about the holidays, and sometimes they're just like, I don't want to hear about that. I'm not ready for that. I know that can make people nervous. So, but January is just around the corner. And I mean, you want to talk about what they should be doing during lame duck. Like, you should be trying to codify Roe v. Wade. Like I said, when Joe Biden said we're not going to be able to do it, we don't have, we didn't keep the Senate or whatever. We didn't take over the Senate in order to do this type of thing. And I'm like, you should still try, because if you show the American people that you guys aren't even willing to try, like, that's a low blow. That's a low blow to people. Like, seriously. So that's my take on it. I think Robert should have pushed back more, but you can watch the rest of the video if you want to as well. That's actually on his channel. I did forget to mention that part. It's called What's Next After the Midterms, Khanna and Robert Reich Discuss. So check that out if you want to see the full interview there. So yeah, that's that. I don't know, dude. I think they're underestimating people like Trump and DeSantis, and I think that's a big mistake. Thank you for the super chat, Jay. Republican-controlled House equals Biden excuses. Yep. The Traveler. I don't like Robert Reich. He says the issues accurately and how to fix them, but every 2 or so years, he goes back to the DNC and tells you to vote for them. Yes, he does. And Robin, RBN opened their show with MLK warning about people advocating patience. Roe is not on your side. Right. It's part of MLK refers to this as part of the strategy of the moderates. Like, that's what they'll do. They'll tell you to wait, and all that time you're waiting, you could have actually been building something. So yeah, their goal is to stall you. They will stall you.